The car was white. Not an ordinary, practical white. It was the kind of white that demanded maintenance, the kind that made sure people noticed it. Lauren had left it parked at an angle in the driveway, the way someone does when they want it visible from the road. Claire noticed it before she noticed anyone else. She pulled in behind it, carefully straightened her own car, and remained seated for a moment after turning off the engine. Through the front window, she could make out the light in the living room, the television flickering, and her mother's silhouette moving somewhere near the kitchen. Normal. Familiar. There was a certain weight to it. She entered through the side door, as she always did. Her mother was standing at the counter when she heard the latch click. She turned and smiled, sincerely. Claire had never questioned that. "Lauren's already here," she said. "She brought someone from work." Not "Hello. You look tired. Let me get you something." Just information. Just context. Lauren had arrived first, and she brought someone with her. That was the shape of the evening now. Claire set down her bag and said she was fine. The man from work was named David. He carried the kind of ease that comes from being respected for a very long time. When Claire entered the dining room, he stood, shook her hand, and repeated her name the way people do when they want you to know they've heard about you. Lauren was already pouring wine. Her father was already asking David about the drive. Claire sat in her usual place, near the window, slightly removed from the natural center of the table, and began the silent calculations she always made. How many questions would come her way? How long it would take before the conversation drifted into Lauren's orbit, as it always did. Not maliciously. That was the part she'd spent years trying to explain to herself. Not maliciously, just out of habit, out of years of assumptions. She's the successful one. Her mother used to say it to neighbors, cousins, anyone who asked how the girls were doing. She always said it proudly, which somehow made it more difficult. You couldn't argue with pride. Dinner was good. Her mother had prepared the same meal she made every year, and there was comfort in that, in the undeniable reassurance of things staying the same. David was pleasant company. He asked questions and genuinely listened to the answers. He laughed at the appropriate moments. Claire ate, joined in whenever there was room, and watched Lauren hold the table with the particular warmth of someone who had learned very early in life how to become the center of a room and make everyone else feel grateful for it. She didn't resent her sister. She wanted that noted, even if the only record was inside her own head. Lauren had earned what she had. The dynamic between them wasn't Lauren's fault, or at least not entirely. It was her father who asked. He asked the same way he always did, leaning back a little, gesturing with his fork, his tone easy, curious, and completely unaware of how heavy the question could be. "So, Claire, what have you been up to lately?" Still at the same company. She opened her mouth. David set down his glass. "Actually," he said, not loudly and not putting on any kind of performance, "Claire's firm handled a major part of the infrastructure work on the Alderton contract, the one we brought Lauren in on last spring." He said it like someone stating a simple fact at dinner, plainly and without drama. I recognized her name when Lauren mentioned her sister was coming. We spent weeks trying to figure out who had done that analysis. It was some of the cleanest risk modeling I'd ever seen on a project that size. He picked up his glass again, took a sip, and returned to his meal. No one moved right away. Her father's fork hung in the air for a moment before he slowly lowered it. Her mother looked at Claire with an expression that took a second to understand. Not exactly surprise. More like discovering something in a drawer you'd forgotten belonged to you. Lauren was staring at her plate. Not with shame. Claire didn't think it was shame. It looked more like the strange experience of seeing something that had always existed suddenly illuminated in a different way. "I didn't know you worked on that," her mother finally said. "You didn't ask," Claire replied softly. She meant it softly. She believed it came across that way. There was a pause. Her father nodded slowly. Not an apology. Nothing as simple as that. Just the nod of a man quietly adjusting something inside himself. Something he hadn't realized needed changing. David, bless him, asked her mother for the recipe for the potatoes. The conversation moved on. After dinner, Claire helped clear the table. She packed the leftovers her mother insisted she take and said good night to David, who shook her hand again and said he meant what he'd said if she was ever interested in having a conversation. She told him she'd think about it. She drove home in the dark. The highway was quiet. The radio stayed off. At a long red light, she watched her breath fog the window slightly. She didn't wipe it away. She simply watched it disappear on its own. Slowly, as the warmth inside the car evened out, she realized she didn't feel victorious. Mostly, she felt the specific exhaustion that comes from being seen too late, too accidentally, and too publicly, all at once. But beneath that, quieter, there was something else. Something she didn't yet have a name for. Something that had space to become something different someday. She drove home.